Hell no. I don't think I can do this anymore, you guys. Actually can tell that this has avocados. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. This channel is all about the food. But before we proceed, guys, first of all, before we proceed, this video was actually supposed to go up a whole month ago. That's when my birthday was, but it's getting to your screens now, so let's just pretend it's my birthday again.
Yes, go baby.
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me.
Okay.
Happy birthday to me.
Birthdays really excite me, and I try every single birthday to make a cake, and today I decided just to get a bit out of my comfort zone. I have been dreaming of making or challenging myself to make a cake that is gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, egg-free, and all those things free. I think it came to me in a dream. I was very curious to see whether I can be able to find a replacement for all the ingredients that would typically go into a cake. Now, fortunately, it's like the universe was listening to me, because around Easter, I did receive a PR package that had some gluten-free products. It had some gluten-free all-purpose flour. It also had some cookies, and I've been munching on the cookies, and then this idea of gluten-free, whatever free, was really tagging on my mind, and I figured I am pretty sure I can be able to find a replacement for all the ingredients that would typically go into a cake. And so I decided to do it. After really trying to come up with this on my own, I decided to hop onto my favorite site, which is ChatGPT, because I had an idea of what ingredients I wanted to use, but I did need some help, especially with the measurements. And to get the perfect recipe, I asked for a couple of things. I have a few requests. I'd like my cake to be gluten-free, egg-free, dairy-free, and sugar-free, but still delicious and something me and my people can enjoy. Please let me know whether you can do this for me. Thank you. These are the recipes that they wrote down for me. I went with those that I had the best ingredients for. So I decided to go with coconut milk instead of almond milk. And then for the frosting, I decided to go with the recipe that had avocados, because avocados are just more convenient for me to get. And I really wanted to see how avocados would translate into a cake. And surprise, 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 you guys will have to wait and see the results. See how it comes out. Starting off with some gluten-free all-purpose flour. I got this from a page on Instagram called Home Chef. I will link them down below for you to check out. And then for an egg replacement, I'm going in with aquafaba. Aquafaba is just the water that you get from canned chickpeas. You can also soak your chickpeas overnight and get the water out, and then boil the chickpeas and eat them as usual. But I find the can method easier, and I also find aquafaba from the can a bit more stable. So I set aside the aquafaba, and then it smelled a bit funky, of course, because it's chickpeas, and I just added a bit of peppermint essence. The flavor that I'm going for with this cake is chocolate mint cake, because that's one of my favorite flavors, and I also know it's going to cover up any odd tastes that I might not like. So I put in my aquafaba into a stand mixer, and to help it froth up, because we are looking for the texture of something like egg whites, I added in about half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Super cheap, you can find it in any supermarket. And just to mention this, if you're making something like a black forest cake, white forest cake, and you're using egg whites and you need a replacement, then aquafaba is the best option for you. It's cheap, it's easily available, and actually it stiffens up really, really nicely. So I beat it up for about 7 to 10 minutes on high speed until it was nice and frothy. And this is what I'll be using as an egg replacement. Mixing the other ingredients, I mixed together some margarine, my gluten-free flour, some honey to replace the sugar, and then I went in with my aquafaba, aka my egg replacement, and then I'll mix this all together before adding in the cocoa. At this point, I'm feeling quite confident because I have quite a number of replacements, and I think we're on the right track. After that, of course, I added my baking powder because, of course, we need a leavening agent. And then I mixed this all together. So what I did is I folded the ingredients because I didn't want the air in the aquafaba to disappear. I still wanted my cake to be as airy as possible. And we'll see towards the end whether this actually worked or not. Once the batter was done, I went in and added some cocoa powder just to make it nice and chocolatey. Folded in this as well, and as you can see, I have sieved my cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is very notorious of having lumps, and you don't want to bite into something bitter. So whenever I'm baking a cake with cocoa powder, ensure that you sieve it. To make the batter a bit softer, I added a bit of coconut milk. I have a recipe where I have shared how to make coconut milk from scratch. I will link it down below. You can check it out, or you can use store-bought coconut milk, almond milk, oat milk, whatever milk replacement that you have would be good to use here. Took out my baking tins, and of course I like to use my spray oil just to make sure that it doesn't stick. Divided my batter into two and off into the oven it went for just a couple of minutes. And guys, when I tell you, oh guys, this is why you do not open the oven during baking. Look at this. Oh my god. Oh no. Oh hell no. Ah. Ay, ay, ay. Everything was going so well until that happened. For some reason, I decided to open the oven because it was smelling like the cake was kind of done after 10 minutes. I don't know what made me want to open the oven. I think I was just really curious, but then I dropped everything. I almost gave up, but I decided to do this again. I didn't have enough cocoa powder, so the batter did end up being lighter in the second try. But basically, these are the clips from the previous mixing because it was the same recipe, the same process, except this time I added a bit less cocoa powder. And then after this mixture was done, then I did the same thing. I oiled my pans, and this time I'm using a love heart shape. Maybe this is why it fell. Maybe this is why it fell, because the universe wanted me to have a love heart shape. It almost fell again here, guys. I don't know what was wrong with me on this day, but here my fingers are really crossed so that this cake can end up good. And into the oven it went again. This time I did not make the mistake of opening it halfway, and this baked pretty good. As that continues to bake, let's go ahead and make the frosting. So I'm going to be using again aquafaba as a replacement of egg whites, and I'm kind of going for something like a Swiss meringue buttercream, except without the butter and without the eggs. So what I'm doing here is mixing a bit of agar-agar. I think I used about a tablespoon or two, just so that my frosting can be more stable. You can also use gelatin, but I was trying to use ingredients that are vegan and allergen-free, so I decided to go with agar-agar. Now looking back, I think I could have skipped this part of agar-agar. I was really afraid that the cake would not set because aquafaba doesn't really set per se, and we don't have any butter to make this set. So that's why I decided to go in with a bit of agar-agar. It did help set the frosting, but I don't think it's a necessary step. Added in some vanilla essence to my frosting just to make it nice and, smell nice, smell like a cake. I'll have to admit, aquafaba has a bit of an off smell that I didn't enjoy working with too much, but the vanilla and the peppermint in the cake definitely took care of that. So as you can see here, my aquafaba has set, and it does have a bit of agar-agar and it's not falling off, which is great. Now the next ingredient I decided to add in was a bit on the questionable side, but this was a great experience working with avocado. Now I'll be transparent and say that I don't really enjoy avocado because of the texture. It's too slimy for me, so I was a bit apprehensive about using it, but then I figured that the texture of the avocado is what would bring in at least a bit of creaminess in the whole frosting, because we're using aquafaba that can be very airy. We're using agar-agar that really has no creaminess. We're not using any sugar, we're just using some honey. So I think the addition of the avocado was a great option. I've also seen recipes that use avocado in brownies, in chocolate cake, and I think because of the fact that avocado has a very mild taste, that can translate really well into mixing it with other ingredients that have more pronounced taste. So here I am measuring out the honey that I'm going to add to the avocado, and then I'll mix all these ingredients together and put them into my stand mixer. Then we'll just have to cross our fingers and hope this works out, and let's see how this goes. In the beginning, this was definitely a bit lumpy, but as it continued to mix together, as you can see on your screen right now, it's creamy. You can't even tell that there is avocado at this point. It just looks like an off-green buttercream. And then again, I sieved out my cocoa powder. So many accidents in the kitchen on this day. I don't know what was happening. Maybe I was a bit too excited for my birthday, but I sieved out the cocoa powder into the mixture. Mix this again until it was now nice and creamy. At the end of this, the frosting was quite light. So what I did, I put it in the fridge for about 10 minutes just to let it set, because remember we did use some agar-agar and it set quite well. And by the time the frosting was done and it had set, then my cake was out of the oven, cooled and ready to be frosted. Here my cake's done and cooled, and here's the thing, the texture is a bit different. There was definitely a bit of cracking. There wasn't as much raising as you'd expect in a normal cake, and the cakes were very fragile. I'm guessing because there are no eggs here, there's no milk, so there's no protein. The flour is gluten-free, so there's no protein holding this together too well. But like, it tried. As you can see, this part has cracked, but I was able to put on my frosting. The frosting was very easy to use, very smooth, a bit on the light side, but I knew this would continue to set because of the agar-agar. But even if it doesn't set, I know that the avocado will dry out a bit. So it's still quite a good frosting. At this point, I had given it a taste of the different elements. I had, pinched off a bit of the cake. The cake gives me a lot of brownie vibes, not really cake airy vibes, that I don't mind. Of course, because there is no protein again, the cake is very fragile and you can feel it in the taste. As for the frosting, I wish I had added a bit more honey so that it can be sweeter. But unless you bite a part that has the avocado, it's really difficult to tell what this frosting has. Like, you would be a bit confused unless somebody specifically told you what was in this. So I guess enjoy this montage of me decorating this cake. It wasn't that hard to work with. I did try some piping techniques later, but then the avocado chunks kept blocking the piping tip, which wasn't too bad. And for such an experiment, I really ended up learning a lot, like how to work with aquafaba. This was actually my first time working with it. I just know how to work with it in theory. The fact that avocado translated into such a creamy frosting was really surprising and really impressive. And this was like a 9/10 experience, except the part where things kept falling. Those parts were 2/10.
All this pressure in my vessel, so I pop. Got me thinking about being what I'm not. Got me questioning my dreams. Do I even got a shot? God done left me on scene when I asked him for the plot.
Let me start by making a wish. Guys, we're going to do a taste test with this cake. And there's something very unique about this cake. So this cake is actually a gluten-free, sugar-free, egg-free, dairy-free cake. And I took up this challenge unprovoked and now I want to give it a taste test. I have tasted every individual component in this cake and it's not bad. I'm very curious to see how it all tastes together, but I'm really glad I took up this challenge because I learned so much through the process of working with gluten-free products, working with egg substitutes. That was a really great lesson. Another main challenge I had was making the frosting. As you can see, it's frosted, but it's not really like a perfectly frosted cake because of the ingredients I chose to use for the frosting. So I think I'll just dig in. Since it's my birthday cake, it's tiny, I don't really need to cut it up. I just want to taste and see whether it's good. I don't want such too big of a part that I want you guys to see first the inside. It's a bit like gummy, if I can call it that. Nice. Okay, the texture reminds me more of a brownie than a cake. The frosting, most of the flavor that I can feel in the frosting is the peppermint that I used and the cocoa, but you actually can tell that this has avocados. I was really doubting the fact that avocados would work for this because I do not enjoy the texture of avocado. The taste is okay, the texture I struggle with, but considering I added all these other things, including aquafaba, honey, peppermint and cocoa powder to the avocado, because of the texture that I actually do not enjoy, ironically, the texture of the avocado that I do not enjoy is actually what has brought some creaminess to the frosting of the cake, and it's going really well with the chocolate because then cocoa can be very bitter, so then the creaminess of the avocado is kind of like toning that down. The sugar is there, but it's a bit far. Maybe if I had used more honey, but I was afraid if I added honey then the frosting wouldn't set. So I was like, I should have added about 3 to 5 tablespoons. Now the thing is, if you have a person in your life who is gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant, maybe they're also allergic to eggs and for some reason they do not eat sugar, oh my god guys, that is such a hard life. It is possible for you to actually make for them a cake that tastes good and is free of all those allergens. I think I have something good here. I like it. I will leave the recipe linked down below for you to check out if you want to try. I really enjoyed doing this experiment. You might not try it at home, but I'm sure you can pick up some elements of some replacement of things in the kitchen, and I hope you learned a lot from this video. I for sure did. If you enjoyed that video, and for my birthday gift, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think about this entire process, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So guys, this is why you do not open the oven during baking. Look at this. Oh no.